thank you all for joining today. Another Continuum webinar. We want to share, pertinent, timely information with our partners, and that's why we put this series on. I'm Sean Browning with Continuum. Been here since November 2013, which is I don't know how many dog years that is, but it's quite a long time in Continuum years. Joining me today is Nicole Dune, and Nicole Dune's in charge of our partner marketing. And I want to put a big shout out to Nicole, because all the things that you see, other than some slides and my talking head, Nicole's in charge of all of that, all of the emails, all of the presentation details, the webinar, the recording that'll go out. So big, huge thanks to Nicole. So thank you, Nicole. Are you on the line, Nicole? On mute, perhaps?
Yes, I am.
There.
Hello.
And as he joins, or maybe the case, maybe we have some housekeeping details. This is a webinar that will be recorded, so we will be able to share that recording with everybody after this presentation today. The chat, there is a Q&A window, so any questions that you might have, please type those into the chat window. We'll address those either in line with the webinar, or we'll address those at the end of the call. And if for some reason we can't address those either time, then we'll follow up with you in person specifically. Some of the details that you'll see today have to do with the live presentation. I'm not going to go into great, huge, minute detail. We have training coming up, partner training coming up in September. And so I want to direct everybody who wants to get certified with Continuum, wants to have the deep, specific Continuum audience stream training. There is a partner training coming up in San Diego in September. We'll get those dates for you. Should be right after Labor Day, but the specifics we're still working through those. But we do want to go through a couple of things today. Very, very informative. Some of the common questions give you the insight of what the latest features are. And so that might be a great place to start off right now. So as I share my screen and move to today's presentation, some of the things I want to cover have to do with Continuum's competitive differentiators. And these are common questions we get from all our partners all the time. Conversations that Mondo and I and Manuel and Gerard, the whole team, we're getting these questions frequently, and I want to share those with you today. So what are those competitive differentiators? And a lot of those are conversational. If I put them in bullet points, they kind of lose their flair. So we'll go through those specific details. We'll also go through what Continuum's customer data platform looks like today, right? If we're making changes in an agile environment, we're making releases on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Where are we now with that release? What do those features, those capabilities look like, and how do they get used? Right? So we'll go through that detail today. And then also, what are some of those clever solutions that resonate with our customers? Yes, on the line, your partners. But at the end of the day, we're all striving, we're all rowing in the same direction for customer satisfaction, customer success. And so what are those things that customers are finding difficult that are the solutions that Continuum is solving? Because if Continuum, we can empower you, our partner, to be successful and make you guys the heroes, then you can deliver these technologies to your customers to solve those challenges and effectively enable you guys to be the heroes. And that's the point. Real fast, bullet points here. So competitive differentiators. If you think about it, Continuum is the forefront of data creation as opposed to other technologies. Let's fill in the blank. What's the difference between Continuum and blank? And typically, other technologies, non-tag management type of technologies, non-customer data platform technologies, they're consumers of data. They will take information, they will consume it, they will do something with it. They're very good at it. I will go into more detail in just a minute. But they need information. They need very rich information, and Continuum is that source of information. We are at the forefront of the data creation. You can build segments, you can build badges, you can build criteria, feed it to those technologies, and do it very, very well and very, very fast. I'm going to show you some of that forefront of the data creation differentiation, because that's one thing that sets Continuum apart from anybody else. And also, I've got some differentiation details through a whiteboard session that we kind of do. It's kind of in a presentation, but I'll show you what it looks like. I will give you a live demonstration. We'll walk through the simple things. We'll walk through the simple things of 1, 2, and 3. How do you create a badge? Once you have the badges, you can build audiences to say who are the groups of people that conform to this, and then how do we connect with them and take action on the data? We got some new features there, Venn diagrams, and some really cool stuff. And again, I'm going to show that to you live. What we're talking about is being at the forefront of the data continuum. And so what is the difference? Why is Continuum doing what it does. And how does it do what it does? Well, if you think about the continuum, the moment that data gets created, that's where Telium is. And it's very hard to be at that point because we've got the capability of making sure that the data supply chain, the information, as robust and as rich as the information is from a digital perspective, we've got that. And we can share it with the ecosystem. But why is that important if we're not able to do something with it? So let's take into account, and this is not something that you haven't learned or haven't seen before, but I do want to set a baseline so everybody can take advantage. Think about the objectives of a website, right? Because it does circle around data, but different types of data. So what are the goals of a website? E-commerce, selling products, of course, and sharing information. Business to business, right? What software does an organization have? If I'm trying to sell software to another organization in a business-to-business capacity, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to understand who they are, what they're interested in, what versions they have presently, qualify them in, up, out. Right? If it's publishing and media, maybe I want to grow that traffic. Maybe I want to convert them across a paywall from someone who's looking at some free content to a non-paid subscriber to a paid subscriber, right? Monetize that. Well, a lot of these things start to have certain patterns, right? Branding, engagement, build out that loyalty. Well, how do you do that if you don't know who a person is, right? So we're getting from kind of an anonymous type of a capability over to an understanding of who a person is. Even intranets. Think about internal organizations in Atlassian, for example, or some internal databases where we want our employees to share data across the wire. We want them to be able to get into knowledge portals and help themselves and do self-service, but they're going to have to log in. Otherwise, they just share general data. Same thing applies to insurance agents, real estate agents, other types of portals where agents and representatives and financial services agents can log in. So intranets and portals. But each one of these starts to move from an idea of not only are you acquiring people and engaging them, but you want to nurture those relationships and you want to share that information. And if you look at these pillars of understanding about how an ecosystem works and the data you're trying to receive, then you want to do something that we can understand some of the traits, right? New people acquiring to a website. You're trying to generate more traffic. They're an unknown user, key on unknown for a moment. Okay? Messaging. Then you move into engaging and converting them. You don't know who they are initially, but then eventually once they're converting, you kind of know who they are because they have to log in if they're going to complete some sort of a purchase, for example. And so now we're crossing that vertical line from anonymous and acquisition to crossing that line to engaging and kind of knowing who they are to convert them and earn their respect and earn those details. If we're nurturing that, right, how do we get them to come back? How do we get them to revisit? How do we qualify those individuals? How do we remarket to those individuals? You kind of have to know who they are so they belong on the right side. Versus on the left, sharing of the information. If we kind of do or don't know, but we know they're a customer, maybe we don't know their email address, but maybe we know their social media identifiers, we want a larger market size. We want a larger share of the wallet. If they're spending $50 with us today, how do we get them to spend $500 or $5,000? If we know that they're a customer that has, a typical wallet size, maybe typically spend $10,000 on something, household goods or appliances, how do we get a larger share of their wallet so that they're not just buying the extension cord? We want them to buy quite a few more items from us. We want a larger share of the wallet. But again, left side might be more anonymous and unknown. Right side might be a little more known. And so we can start drawing out kind of some lines that say, on the left side, you got some branding going on, some anonymous detail. DMPs, great at bringing traffic to the website. Don't necessarily know who people are, but they're bringing a lot of eyeballs. They're doing the segmentation. They're acquiring visitors. Great for branding. But you want to move that traffic to the right side for a more personalized sense. Well, how do you do that? How do you get to know who an individual is? Enter Telium CDP, an audience stream. And if I carry the story a little forward a little bit more, from the left side, you're sharing, right? You want a larger share of the wallet. You want more social media detail. You kind of know who these individuals are, kind of, but they're not in your customer database just yet, right? They're moving from the left side. And in this kind of third-party information, You don't know exactly who they are, but you want to move them to the right side so you can engage with them. But you don't know who they are unless they share with you first-party data. Now let's get into the first-party data real fast. Notice that the walled gardens are starting to eliminate and remove the capability of allowing third-party data. They're not allowing the third-party information into the walled gardens, Facebook and Google and so forth. They're locking it down to only first-party data, first-party information is allowed inside of the walled garden, right? And so that third party is starting to fade away. There was a great presentation given by Jay Calavas at Telium Institute last year, Anonymous, and how the anonymous types of activity, they're starting to fade. It's very, very inaccurate. And so you're only going to have very accurate, very good data if it's that first-party information. And so Telium is built with a particular purpose. And so is every other technology that's out there. So competitive differentiators. What's the difference between Telium and search engine marketing? What's the difference between Telium and DMP? What's the difference between Telium and marketing automation? Each one of the particular technologies to do something really, really, really well. But notice there's a lot of feature overlap. In U.S. partners, you get this all the time. In fact, you ask us, segmentation. This technology over here is segmentation. This technology over here, they have a connector like you have a connector. This connection, these competitive technologies for content optimization, don't they have the ability to build out segments just like Telium? There's a lot of feature overlap. Yes, it's true, right? There is feature overlap. It's feature overlap. That's not what they're built for. They're not built for that particular purpose. They're web content management, display content, or they're optimization, multivariate testing. They're built to do something really, really well, better than any of their competitors. What they're not built to do is do exactly what's in the center there as far as a customer data platform is concerned. Who is an individual in real time to share that information so that every digital marketing technology, one of them, right, agnostically, staying away from vertical, staying away from vendor stack, those technologies, right, they're all built to further their own purpose and generate their own money. But a CDP is built to be agnostic across the board. Grab the data, gather that information from DMP, analytics, marketing, with the rest of the ecosystem, and that's what you don't get anywhere else. At the front of the data continuum, we have that information. At the front of the data continuum, we can also pull in data and segments and attribution information from reporting tools. We could pull in attribution and data from DMPs or audience building type of applications, right? But if you look at an audience management type of an application, it builds its audiences to share with itself and its vendor specific complementary technologies. But we can pull in that information, understand what an audience is, and then share that out with the voice of the customer, marketing automation, display advertising, DMP technologies. And none of those technologies are built to share amongst their competitors. Right? That's not their objective. Ours is. Being agnostic, being able to share the data in real time at the right time, that is the importance of Telium and Telium's customer data platform being at the forefront of the data continuum. So the historical approach has been, and I got 2 more slides and I'm moving over to the live technology, so you'll see it in just a second. But the historical approach is on the left side, generalized, right? Missed opportunities. You kind of know who someone is, they fade away, you don't even know what part of your marketing is working and what part's not working. But you can start doing something about it. You can bring on a DMP. You can start doing some lookalike modeling. Give me those people in this geographic region that speak this language that are interested in these products, right? You can give $1,000 over to DMP and it can bring in 1,000 visitors. Right? If you want to double that, you give them 2,000 and they bring in 2,000. But the problem there is you don't exactly know who that is until someone authenticates. The DMPs can listen for the authentication, but they don't really track all of the history over on the left side, right? So they can bring in visitors, but they're not really keeping track of all those visitors and those visitor profiles. Helium does, right? That's one of the things about a customer data platform is we can listen for the history before and after someone authenticates. So you have this guy and the image here. We're kind of listening for what's going on the left, listening for all that detail and that historical information, and then once someone authenticates, now we know who that person is and that point of identification and so forth. But historically, everybody's been focused on email as a primary marketing experience. Not everybody shares email, and they might change it, right? Email's good to have, not necessary, especially when you're talking about a CDP. Lots of acronyms, not DMP, but CDP. Email. There are other means of identifiers as well. Could be social media, could be a customer ID, could be a frequent flyer number. There's all kinds of methods that are not personally identifiable, such as an email address would be considered, right? And so Continuum has a way of listening for all those secondary authentication methods so that you can start stitching together who that person is. And now you can start figuring out not just an anonymous person that's kind of a missed opportunity, generalized type of a cookie approach, to more of a detailed customer. Who is this person? Oh, it's the same person with the same social media ID, or the same person with the same frequent flyer ID, and they use mobile, and they use desktop, and they use tablet. But if they're using that common identifier across these platforms, we know how they're spanning from work, home, across different desktops, their mobile apps, their mobile web, whether we can associate and calculate all of the understanding of their lifetime value. And once it crosses a certain threshold, you can be very specific and know exactly who that person is that has spent some money so you could target them and communicate and appreciate them quite a bit more. And then you could retarget them, right? And then help them complete their purchase even though they might be on a mobile device. Or you can be even more specific and remove them out of the retargeting because they've already bought something that they weren't being advertised. So if you buy something and you still see those ads, someone's failed somewhere. Someone's not using Continuum, at least not using Continuum successfully. So let me switch over to the live view over to the browser here and go through some of the live things and also competitive differentiators, help share with the group of what's going on and how are we using this successfully. So one of those ideas is the data needs to come across in real time. So what I'm looking at here is Continuum's audience stream capability. Audience stream is a tag. It's effectively a tag or capability that's dropped in through Continuum's tag management, Continuum. So once you're in Continuum, you add the audience stream tag, the live website, right, that has that JavaScript tag on there is now in real time live as I make selections, as I'm clicking around. Well, now I can identify things, I can look at things, and initially, notice in the upper right corner, I haven't logged in yet, but Continuum's still listening. It's listening, there's a cookie locally, it's understanding what's going on, and the audience stream pixel is firing, right? It's listening for individuals that might be under certain product categories, might be looking at certain areas of the website, and cool things like that. At the moment that I do authenticate, right, I go to my account because I want to make a purchase or I want to add something to my cart. If I want this blue shirt in medium fashion and I select and move through the process and I add it to my cart, it's going to ask me eventually who I am. Right? And so I can either I authenticate here or I'm just going to click on my account and go to login towards the upper right corner. I'll type in my details. It remembers it from last time, so I click login. But now I've got some information, historical. It remembers that inside of Continuum, and now it's associating that with my login. And so now it knows which product I've looked at, which purchases I've had, order totals over time, right? Accumulating lifetime value. I'm speaking on my mobile phone. I've placed some purchases on my mobile phone as well. And so now it's understanding who I am on my mobile device, right? Mobile web experience, and my live web experience you're seeing on the screen here. And it's stitching that together in Continuum's audience stream. Huge pain point for customers. How do I stitch together activity of an individual person across devices without an email address? Right? A login is sufficient. But also, social media IDs, a Facebook identification method is good enough, right? Facebook IDs and Google identifiers as well, right? So if I log into a website and I click on the blue button or I click on the red button and maybe there's a Janrain authentication method, or maybe it's Google, or maybe it's a Facebook, or some third-party identification technology. That's strong enough for us to listen for and then grab onto that to associate that with a visitor profile to build out favorite products, categories of interest, tactics and marketing means that brought me to the website, and then also conversion in real time. Right? So as I look around, I notice this is a live view of data. I've got 5 people that meet this category, 5 people that meet this category, 4 that meet this category. And so you can see I might be one person, but I fit into multiple categories. I'm going to do a little bit of audience stream training right now. Number one, how do you build these categories? Because you've got to build the categories to build out an audience. So if I go up to enrich and then pull down to attributes, I can build out these categories. And I want to keep it into a very simple 3-step process. You can expand from there. We got new features, but I'm not going to touch on that just now. I just want to highlight what are the 3 steps to build out and be able to use audience stream successfully, right? And all the things that we mentioned a moment ago about the data continuum being the source of the data and so forth. We build out enrichments and attributes to say, what do we know about a person? What are some of the badges? Someone who's looking at bags and luggage, right? Or they're a book and music fan, right? So if I go up here and I can go to home and decor and book and music, well, that's one of those categories, right? And we'd say maybe queue off of the URL for books and music. So inside of audience stream for books and music, right? We don't want to build out this from scratch. I click on add attribute in the upper right corner. I could build out a badge or a trait. And I could say this is books and music, right? I already have one of those, so I'm not going to duplicate it. But I could say, give me the book and music category, create an enrichment. I'm going to assign a badge that at the moment that someone accesses a particular type of content, I create a rule that says this is the book and music URL. And if they select that, and I go to the URL, some sort of a product URL or some sort of a category URL, and then it has, contains the detail of some custom value, and I grab the books and music HTML under home decor, copy that. I'm moving through this quickly. Again, we've got this training coming up in September. What I want to highlight is if we've got particular URLs with a certain logical operator and it matches a certain custom value to the value, notice what I'm not doing. I'm not having to script this. There's no programming necessary, right? Another competitive differentiator, right? Ticking off the back of our mind there, which is you don't have to program this. We've turned this into a point-and-click, fill-in-the-blank type of an exercise, right? So if I've got this books and music URL, right, and I can fill in these details, when this URL, this condition is true, then I have a rule that says for any time, any click, any action event, download, registration, whatever, then if that URL capability contains the home decor/books, that assigns this type of a badge to that person, right? Sean has accessed the books and music capability. And now what I've got is, now if I hit save, and I'm not going to because there's one that's already built out beautifully, then I find the books and music fan is similar, right? Assign the badge, books and music fan, to anybody on any event when the page URL contains books and music. Again, no programming necessary. What we do require is you as the partner to come up with the logic, understanding the customer's requirements, their objectives, and what they're trying to do for their business. We need you guys for the strategy, right? We've got the technology, you've got the strategy. I think between those two, I think we all can make a lot of money. But the idea is you've got the strategy, you drop it in here, and now you can do it in like 15 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, but now you're able to move on to the next step. Let's assume that we built out cart abandonment strategies, right? How did someone move through a process but not complete it? Someone's looking at electronics or eyewear. Someone's a fan of the website. I'm going to come back to this a couple times. So here's the definition. A person is a fan of the website if their lifetime visit count is greater than 2 visits, right? Someone comes to the website twice, but they typed in the URL instead of clicking on something to refer them to the website. Now, you can change this rule. All you can do is go to the rule and change it. You can define this to be any way you want. But we have a lot of out-of-the-box capabilities. Another common question. Does a partner have to build this out from scratch, or do we have a whole bunch of these? We have a whole bunch of these. We got 50, 60, maybe 75 of these already pre-built. So when the account spins up, this is already in there. But I'll come back to the fan in a minute. But when someone comes to the website, they're a fan of the website. They get here directly. Maybe once they buy something, become a VIP, right? So we can build out these categories, these details. And in a moment, I'll go to the trace so you can see when these drop in successfully, right? That the machine is working, that technology is doing what it's supposed to do. But in Helium, you're building out these building blocks, building out these attributes. If A and B and C occur, Give me that group of people that meet that criteria. Give me that audience, right? Are there audience building technologies out there similar to Continuum? Yes, they are. Do they look like this? I don't know. Let's go to audiences. Let me add an audience. And I can say, give me this is, I'm going to keep it anonymous right now, Sean's audience for some reason. I'll dial it back in a minute. But, and the conditions, if we have a person that is an accessories fan. How about books? Let me go back to the books category. What if they're a book and music fan, right? If the book and music fan attribute is true, and it's assigned, and what if they're also someone who uses maybe a mobile device, or maybe they're a cart abandoner, right? So I can start clicking around here, and I could say, you know, maybe they were looking at books and music, but then they abandoned their carts, and I come up with a third operator, fourth operator, and fifth operator. I mean, I can keep coming up to this. But before I hit save, would it be good to explore this and really come up with a preview way of seeing if something's real and true and valid without kind of hitting save and then looking at it? I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to show you one of the new features that we've got now. It's called audience sighting. It's a Venn diagram. New capability, launched very, very recently, I believe right around Digital Velocity in May. But let's do this. Let's say the same thing I was just showing a second ago. What if I grab those people that have abandoned a cart, and let's talk about someone who's a fan. Maybe they've qualified for a fan badge. And what if they haven't been here for a week? So they abandoned their cart. They're a fan. They know how to get there. They just haven't, 1 week's elapsed since their first visit or their most recent visit. I'll just pick this one. But let's come up with some counts. I see some zeros. It's thinking too hard. Too recent. Too recent. All right, well, we got some data coming up. But historically, you know, maybe not just today, not in the last week. What about since the beginning of May? Right? Give me a month and a half worth of data. Let's look historically for my criteria. Do I have anybody that's been here, you know, at least for a week, that's qualified for the fan badge because they typed in the URL and been here a couple times, but they had something added to the cart and they abandoned their cart? Well, it looks like we do have some criteria, right? So in a historical sense, we're able to build out these rules, because then what I can do is I can click the next button and build that as an audience, right? And so now we had was building blocks and then building an audience manually versus being able to use this audience sizing Venn diagram to build this out for you and kind of do a little preview, pre-discovery, right? Now watch, if I do a little hover, the red qualifies for the fan badge. There's 20 people in that category. It's strictly just that fan badge. That's not any of the other two criteria. If I look at the blue, it's 7 people abandoned their cart. The green, 4 people. It's been at least a week since their first visit. But now I can get into the, well, let's look at this one. I got 3 people that share that criteria of 1 week and the cart's abandoned and qualifies for a fan badge. There's 3 that meet that criteria and so forth. Right? So you can build out and discover and look at your audiences and go, okay, that does meet my criteria over that particular period of time. So I'll move to the next step, right? And so now I could say, what segments do I want? That one, that one, that one. Maybe I want to go for that really targeted one right there, that one that meets those 3 criteria, and now I want to set up a job. Why would I want to do that? Right? At the source of the data, at the source of the data continuum, if I'm building out a segment or an audience and making it easy, right, I want to create a job to be able to target or remarket or do something retargeting. Remember we talked about those pillars, right? What if it's a branding site or an e-commerce site? What we're trying to achieve something for B2B, and we're getting somebody to sell them some of the software to a different organization or different company, right? How do we retarget them successfully? They started a process. We want to help them continue that process. But we're going to do this retargeting, let's see, graduation. I thought graduation would be a fun topic, at least a fun mnemonic for, June activities. It's kind of summer. There's graduations going on. You can kind of feel buzz in the air. I thought graduation would be kind of a fun idea. And I'm going to pause for a second. Got a message from Nicole. Can't see the screen, and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to click pause and then see if I can kick it loose again. It's buffering, and it should be resharing again. And so, then I'm going to move on and create a job. All right, thanks, Nicole. So now we've created a job. Now, what do we do with this job? Remember, I told you I'm going to keep this simple, right? We're building attributes. We're combining those attributes, 3 of them here, to build an audience. And now that I've got that, what am I going to do with it? Well, now I can build out. I can take action on that job. I can build out that connection, that audience, to say, you know what, maybe I want to target individuals in social media capacity, or maybe I want to target them in a display advertising capacity. So we've got connectors, right? The whole purpose of this is moving from anonymous to an understanding of a first-party understanding of who a person is, someone who's historically performed some actions, and we want to target those or remarket those individuals in a visitor sense, right? This is all visitor-centric data, right? Who's this person? Who's Nicole? Who's Armando? Who's Sean? Who are these individual people? And we're not talking about cookies. We've got to get away from that third-party, anonymous, third-party cookie, anonymous cookie information, right? So this is not cookie data. We know who this individual is because we've got some customer ID, frequent flyer number, social media authentication. And notice I didn't say email address. But now we can target individuals. Do we want to turn on or turn off display advertising? Perhaps, right? So now what we've got is, let's say, DFP, double click for publishers, right? Adding a connector. This says go get white labeled as your account in DoubleClick, and then once you do so, they give you a Google customer ID. Once you type that in there, now we could say, Sean came to the website, looked at some accessories, looked at the book, but didn't complete that process. Sean abandoned the cart. So let's add Sean to that list or segment in DoubleClick. So that way, I start seeing those around the world in 80 days or Tale of Two Cities or something along those lines. I start seeing those items that I looked at. But at the moment that I'm on the site, there's an order ID that's present. Let's have the rule trigger to remove me from that list or that segment. So that way I'm no longer targeted to DoubleClick and all those other connectors, Facebook and Yahoo and so forth. If a customer, you help the customer use Telium and the customer data platform, you can advise and help the customer turn on and turn off their advertising. Right? This gets to one of those common use points of how customers use these clever innovations that Telium's putting out. One of those is turning off the advertising. Right? If they're spending $100,000 or $1 million a month in advertising, but now you have a way of understanding who a person is, that they bought that particular product, you're sharing it with the ecosystem, this is one of those items in the ecosystem to turn off display advertising, so that way Sean no longer sees that book around the world in 80 days because I already purchased that, because Telium is sending the signal, the data right over to the connector to remove me out of that list or segment, and I can build out that action. And so you can see the details. Anybody who happens to be one of these criteria, and there's my retargeting graduation, right? A moment ago, through the Venn diagram, we said, give me those people that are cart abandoners, right? Those cart abandoners who qualify for the fan badge that's been a week since their first visit. I call that the retargeting graduation mnemonic. I just built that right here on the fly. And so now we say, if that is that rule, that's that audience, we've just built the audience, let's have this, and I can hit save. This connector, once someone meets those criteria, turn on or turn off through DoubleClick. Turn on or turn off through, say we had an email address. Any of these would work. Let's turn on and turn off, without an email address, Facebook advertising. Right? Because now if we understand who an individual is, but they've shared their Facebook identifier somehow, right? Then we can turn on and turn off the advertisements, add them to a custom audience, remove them from a custom audience. At the moment that someone looks at a cart or looks at a product and abandons their cart, let's set that same rule, that same source, that same detail, that if those individuals for the retargeting from the graduation June campaign, right, webinar we're doing right here, if they meet that criteria, let's turn off that detail inside of Facebook's advertising. I'm not going to save this one, it takes some more configuration. But now you get the idea. Who are people on the site performing some sort of an action, build out the rules, and then take action on the data. We can personalize the information. We can send it optimizely for content optimization. Right? We can turn on, turn off display advertising. A couple more features, right? We just showed, here's a new capability that we added to Telium not too long ago. Much like the Venn diagram, something else that we've added for the connectors has to do with, let me find it, customer matching. This is a new capability. So Telium and DoubleClick integrated together for effectively it's a cookie sync kind of a capability, right? When we have the cookies, when we have the details, understanding what's going on in the advertising, and you want to have some communication behind the scenes, there's some synchronization that has to happen. And so now we've also introduced this, so that way we could start exchanging in real time ad networks, holding companies, third-party technology vendors, and so forth and so on. We've got these capabilities that build out for Google AdWords. They build out for, let me go to this area right here. Criteo would be another one of those, right? And so we've got a way of syncing up the data between certain technologies, so that way we can say, okay, we'll take this information, take this other information, let's leverage that in a powerful sense, and then be able to do that in a synchronized format and a synchronized capability. That's another capability that Telium's introduced pretty recently, and so Google's one of those, Criteo's another one of those, and it's just a way of getting the data, the segments, the audiences that you're building out to a wider audience so that it's more effective when you take action on who that individual is for the purpose of respecting that individual. I mean, it's 2016. It shouldn't have anonymous advertising anymore, right? So now we've got the abilities of taking action on the data because, again, Telium's at the forefront of that data creation. And if you think about it, again, back to the competitive analysis, what's the difference between Telium and an audience building technology, right? An audience segmentation application builds its segment based on this criteria. Great, DMPs do this really well, right? Give me these people that live in this area that do this certain thing that were on the website that we're interested in, vacation. We can listen for that information, so when they show up on the website, right, we can then remember that information and associate it with a person. For the purpose that DMP or that audience management type of an application, they were building it for their own purpose. They don't have a way of sharing it out there with other DMPs or other audience management applications or with Google technologies or with other cloud-based vendors, Salesforce and IBM, Adobe, Google. I mean, a lot of these guys are competitors, right? So they're not going to share data with each other. But remember, we're all rowing in the same direction for customer satisfaction. Customers really want to pick and choose their own technologies that they're interested about. They want to use this analytics tool, this other optimization tool, this for remarketing, this for and so they get to pick and choose. Telium being agnostic, another competitive differentiator, by the way. Telium being agnostic, you can take the data from a DMP or an audience management application and then share that out there with the rest of the ecosystem that your customers already selected as their vendors of choice. And so that's how Telium really starts to shine is not only do we have a technology where it keeps you from having to click around and do a lot of programming, right? We put it in a point-and-click type of an interface. So cutting down on the programming, but we're also able to share that across the ecosystem with every technology that a customer might be using. And I say that because, if we have customers, every time they discover new technology, they call their account manager and say, hey, this is kind of clever. Can you add this to my account? We'll add that one time. And then everybody gets to take advantage of it, right? That's the agnostic nature of Telium. One of our competitive advantages. Everybody else seems to be vendor vertical specific, right? To further that vendor's cause, whereas we're a common platform across the board that's got over 1,000 integration technologies. And so customers get to pick and choose and leverage the economy of scale. That flywheel is spinning. That's a great reference. Flywheel is spinning. People are jumping on board. Customers are liking it. We're doing something right. And so now, if we've got the ability, remember I told you 3 steps, right? Build out some attributes. Right? Give me some people that meet the cart abandonment criteria. Fan badge. Time since their last visit. You build out an audience. Give me those groups of people with those attributes in common, and then you take action on the data. Well, now we're on the right track, right? Because now it's dynamic. It's real time. You're doing something with the data, and customers are loving this, right? Those are challenges, right? Visitors stitching across devices based on some sort of first-party non-email authentication means. And then doing something with it, target them, communicate, advertise, display, so forth and so on. Really good stuff. Once we have that, you know, and the system's humming along, you can dial it in, you can tune it up, but now we've got some other capabilities. Well, I'm going to move beyond the three-step process, right? I just mentioned those 3 steps, right? Building out some attributes, combining a few of those for audiences to then take action on the data. But now how do I get my offline data into the system? Hey, we've got a solution for that. Helium's omni-channel capability has a way of pulling in data, offline point-of-sale data, or other offline customer or company database information. I was working with an organization. They wanted to tie in data in a self-service portal, so people were able to be anonymous and get some knowledge-based information, but they were able to log in and get even more rich information. And then based on that authentication, we knew what office they were in, what country and region they were from, what language they spoke, who their manager was that they reported to, right? Because we could pull in the offline data from an Oracle database, by the way, and pull that in so that way we could figure out who are these individuals and what are the criteria that we know about them. Right? So a CSV file that gets pulled into Helium periodically might have some sort of a join key or customer identification, and if we know who that person is, again, e-commerce works really well. Hospitality, travel, it doesn't matter what kind of vertical it happens to be. Intranet and portals, all that. Right? But if we want to pull in data, you just map some columns and say, okay, give me the totals of orders. Give me the office location or supervisor information. I can just continually build out the details here of the attributes, offline details that we might know about a person. I can even, in the e-commerce, if I go into the typical analogy I use, which is, what if I buy $1,000 worth of shoes, but I keep one $100 pair of shoes and return the 9 other pairs? Am I a $1,000 customer? If we're relying strictly on digital data, yeah. But if I return back 9 pair of shoes, I've kind of returned some data back to, I've returned some products back to the brick and mortar store, and unless we do a synchronization offline, I'm not really going to synchronize back from a $1,000 customer back to what I really am, which is a really $100 customer. But if you use this, import the data about customers, and then say, Sean returned $900 worth of shoes. Well, now Sean's really a $100 customer instead of a $1,000 customer, and I can be treated accordingly. I don't get any free shipping offers anymore. I don't get, you know, some of the discounts. You know, maybe I had a 10% discount, not a 25% discount. So my visitor profile gets synchronized, trued up, if you will, and a bit more accurate. But we have a way of pulling in the offline data through the omnichannel capability so that data can be brought in on a periodic basis, and that way we're truing up the visitor record. Who's this person, and what are they really actually worth to us in the lifetime value capacity across devices, but online and offline. And then I don't want to use traditional reporting tool. I want to use a custom tool. Maybe I want to act on the data, and I want to get my hands on the data. I want to access my data. Well, there's another piece. Right? How do you want to access your data? Do you want people, information about people, or do you want information about events? I want all the clicks. I want all the activities, all the registrations. Well, great. We've got click data. We'll call them events. Right? And I can give you those events. We can just say, I'll give you all the events that have to do with, you can build out streams, right? Everything, or just the occasions where it's a failed keyword, or maybe this occasion where something else happened. But I can give you all the events, download it in a file. Maybe you want to process this through some sort of a web file analysis application. But now you can see all of the data, all the event-based data, all the clicks, all the actions, just like you would expect, right? Date, time, date, value, URL, query string parameters, cookie identifiers, so forth. It could be in a web server log file format. It can be in a JSON format, but we've got that. I can click download. It'll download that in my browser very quickly. I can also feed that over to Amazon S3, right? So I feed it over to Amazon S3. Now you've got a location where that information goes straight over to Amazon, and you can pull it from there at your convenience. And then also, in a database capacity, Why would we want a database capacity? If I wanted to feed data to a database, I'm going to feed it over to Redshift. And the reason I'm going to feed it over to Redshift is because it's quite a bit easier to manipulate. And I'm going to pause for just a second. I want to show this. This is a slide. We were looking at the Telium commerce area. But what if I say, okay, take this data, but I want to send this over to Redshift, and in a database format, I want to then pass it over to Domo. Domo is a dashboarding technology. It's a capability of pulling in multiple data sources so you can visualize your data the way you want it. And you can build out certain cards, certain collections, and that's exactly what we did. We take the Telium data, the audience stream data, straight off the Telium commerce website we saw a moment ago. And then we're feeding that straight over to Domo, and Domo picks that up through the Redshift connector. And you can see tactic performers, window shopper conversions. You can see data having to do with who our most valuable customers are. You can drill into these data. Telium mobile capability. Who are those people that have come to the website that use mobile devices, and so forth. And so Domo pulls in the data very easily from Telium's audience stream, and you can build out scorecards, dashboards, all kinds of reporting, and you can integrate Salesforce data, web data, offline data, other Excel data sources. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can import to make these more informative. But I want to show you just a little bit of sample of Telium data inside of Domo, so you can see, as people were accessing the website in August 2015, it's all computer PC traffic, green PC. But then as they move through, there's a little bit of adoption of mobile, the blue, and they've got some PC traffic, but now mobile is on the rise. And in 2015 October, it's on the rise, and then 2015 November, even more on the rise. So this is a graphic that's meant to show not only have an increase in traffic, but we also had a rise in adoption of mobile devices across and over time. And so you can see the data as it's moving through to understand more about who are those individuals, what are their audiences, how does that work out, all that cool stuff in a visualization capacity, right, in the trends and the details and so forth. But I also have another way of seeing the data in a Tableau sense, right? So if I bring up Tableau, let's take a look at, let me pause for one more second, go over here, share this one. Again, through Telium, we're looking at, again, the Telium Commerce website. But now, if I share this through Amazon Web Services, right, Telium just passes this from audience stream, Tableau can pick up that data. And it can pick up very informative information through the data source of events and or audiences. Give me the records of the people specifically. Give me all those visitor records. Put it into Tableau. Who are those people that were looking at the aviator sunglasses, the chino pants, the Chelsea tees, the linen blazers, right? So this is a way of seeing the visualization, and again, it's very simple to build this out. If you've got a a Tableau install or a Domo subscription, they lend themselves very nicely to pulling Telium data straight into those visualization and dashboards, so you're up and running very, very quickly. It's very easy to consume, and it's very easy for them to pick up and sort through and pull up the attributes in the data very quickly. In fact, in Audience Stream, one last identifier here is the dimensions column. Every time in Audience Stream you build out a badge or an attribute, it gets pumped straight into Redshift, and then it's automatically reflected inside a Tableau. You don't have to build out tables. There's no database creation. You don't have to determine if it's a date type or a string type or a long string. You don't have to worry about any of that detail. It automatically shows up in Tableau. So visitor information, products, categories, dates of visits and time and stuff like that, that all gets sent automatically, and Tableau picks that up, and so it's ready for you to do any kind of dashboarding and visualization inside of Tableau, Domo, Looker, Splunk, et cetera, so forth and so on. And so the data, getting the data out of Telium, we make it very simple, and that's through something called data access. Right? So very simple to build out the audiences and attributes. Very simple to take action on the data, but sometimes when you want to get your hands on it, we've got the data access. How do you build out your audiences? Well, now we've talked about the audience sizing and the audience sizing jobs. Right? We've explored that as well. And then with Telium, we can get the data right straight back into Telium IQ, so that way any of those tags that are out in the ecosystem, in the tag management area, those tags can pull in this information that we've created here, and then we can share that with the rest of the ecosystem, right? So that's the whole idea, is how do we take advantage of the data in real time, but then also share that with the rest of the ecosystem? How do we get it out so that way we can empower the rest of the digital marketing technologies to be on the same page? And I want to move over to one more idea. And I'm going to start wrapping up here. And there we go. I want to get back to the other presentation and start wrapping up, coming in for a landing. So if we've got this detailed customer journey, and it's all about the visitor-centric record. Who is this person? Have they converted on mobile? Have they browsed on desktop? Have they abandoned their cart? Are they a fan of the website? Did they complete their purchase? What's their lifetime value? Updating all this stuff in real time, right? Then what organizations have been successful by doing this? So I've taken out the actual logos, but if we've had conversations in the past, you've seen some of the logos that correspond here, but here's some organizations that have been successful in an e-commerce capacity or a business-to-business type of a capacity. Before they're using Telium CDP, it was taking a long time, end of day or end of week, 24 to 48 hours before they got their data. It used to take multitudes of steps. They'd have to download the data, they'd have to massage it through ETL, they would have to pass it over some technologies, they would have to transport it from this server over to this other server, maybe it's up in the cloud. I mean, there's a number of steps. And so on the left side, there's a lot of time that it took, a lot of steps, and by the time you actually got to retarget that individual, you had a 1 in 20 chance of even coming close to hitting the mark. But after Audience Stream and the real-time capability, you're cutting down on the number of steps, meaning that you don't have to pay or subscribe to all those technologies either, by the way. Right? Server support here, cloud-based technology there, ETL capabilities in the middle. What if I remove that from 13 steps and remove out 10 technologies, expensive technologies, and move it down to just 4 steps? Well, these organizations have found a 60% increase in the re-engagement capabilities, meaning that right message to the right person at the right time, yes, you're going to see an increase in lift. What does that mean? You as our partner, you're the hero. You have done something impossible that the customer wasn't able to do because you're able to do something in real time across devices to increase that re-engagement. And it works. I mean, customers are doing this, every day, right? From a branding and a media capacity, going away from that 24 to 40-hour lag and the stale retargeting in a branding sense or media sense, they had low conversion rates because they've got the same old advertising that we all gloss over, don't even watch or don't even view, and there's very low conversion. But now that they're able to do it in real time, we know who this person is. Let's feed this data over to a real-time display or optimization platform. Let's do relevant targeting and decisioning. And with one organization, they saw 15x return on their investment in one campaign. Very targeted, very specific. They saw 15 times return. I mean, Telium paid for itself. Right? And that's what you're really looking for is how does this technology really move the needle? It's sexy, it cuts down on the programming and so forth, but it actually does, it does bring the value and result in revenue and savings at the end of the day. And then finally, what if we go from travel and hospitality, you got a static website, low conversion rates, not much going on, but you can personalize the experience. This person likes to go to Alaska in the summer, likes to go to Hawaii in the summer. I just messed it up. Alaska in the summer, Hawaii in the winter, excuse me. We've got organizations, Telium's paid for itself in 3 weeks, right? Highly targeted. Maybe they didn't even have a lot of volume, but they came to the website, very little traffic, very qualified traffic. This pays for itself. And so, again, we got other examples, but Audience Stream, with the real-time nature, the visitor centricity, and then sharing it with the ecosystem, we've now graduated to, the whole customer data platform, sharing that with the rest of the ecosystem. It doesn't matter what device or technology from the left. We're able to share it with the testing and the advertising networks, the audience management, every technology a customer might pick and choose. We're empowering that to make sure that everything's on the same page, working in concert with each other. And of course, you can get a copy of that through our data access, or you can visitor stitch that through our Telium Audience Stream Data Cloud. But the whole idea is we've got that capability. Customers want it, and you guys build the strategy, and I think we're all rowing in the same direction. So in our June version of the partner webinar, I want to thank you very much for your time, and do want to direct your attention, ping me or others on the team for our deep audience stream training that we've got coming up in September. And other than that, I'll start wrapping up. And so I'm going to ask Nicole real quick, just in the moment or two that we have left. Nicole, any Q&A questions, or any partners typing in Q&A comments or elements that we want to bring up on the call, or is there anything we should follow up with maybe after the call?
There's a few things we can follow up with after the call, Sean, but somebody asked if there were any out-of-the-box integrations available.
And there are, right? So out-of-the-box integrations, everything that we've seen in the user interface today, right? The Facebook to Twitter, DoubleClick, and Criteo, email, service providers. I mean, we've got tons. I think we're up to about 50 connectors in audience streams. We're up to about 1,000 different tags in integrations in the Telium IQ tag management space. So we've got over 1,000 connections and integrations. But because we can also pass data over to Amazon, right? We can pass it in the database capacity or a JSON or a web server log file capacity. That really broadens that. So, Nicole, great question. I'm glad you brought that up. There's tons of ways of getting data out of Telium, and I would love to drill into that question later on after this webinar to see what integration someone is specifically asking about. Because typically when that question comes up, there's a reason. Mm-hmm. There's a particular technology that we don't have an integration with, and I'm happy to adjust that as time goes on. So let's follow up on that one offline. And what else we got, Nicole? Is that any more?
That was it. Thanks, Sean.
Brilliant. Well, Nicole, thank you for making this happen. You're such a wizard. You do this all the time, and it always turns out to be a great success. So, Nicole Dune, thank you very much. Partners on the line, thank you for your attention. Again, ping me, ping Mondo, ping Nicole. Anything we can do to help out, facilitate on-site trainings or trainings that are in San Diego in September. Let us know what we can do to help, improve and enable and make our partnership stronger. So, on that, we'll sign off and say thanks for your time and hope you have a great summer. Talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.